1, 2, 3. Okay. Cool. All right. Ready?
Ready.
Cool. All right. Professor, thank you for sitting down to have a chat about jiu-jitsu, about your experiences. I'm going to do a couple of these episodes. Our first episode today, I thought, since we're both new to the podcasting experience, we're both white belts again, maybe we'd start with just talking about what it is to be a white belt and when you first started jiu-jitsu. So, my very first question, when did you start training Brazilian jiu-jitsu?
All right, so firstly, thanks for organizing that, Nick. I'm really pumped to share a little bit of my experience with jiu-jitsu, but going straight to the point, I started training jiu-jitsu in 1999 back in Brazil, in my hometown. Jiu-jitsu wasn't a big trend back then. It was still starting to become more popular. And then, that's where it all gets started. Me, Professor Pedro, who teaches in Bondi, Professor Felipe, who also teaches in Bondi. We're all young kids, and that's where it all started for us.
The original crew. But you met those guys on the mats, right? You didn't meet them before jiu-jitsu?
Yes, I met them on the mats. I remember Professor Pedro, he had started maybe 2 months before me. So he had a bit of experience already. Professor Felipe, he had maybe around 6 months of experience or more than that, so he will be the one who smashes on the mat.
Why did you walk into a jiu-jitsu school?
So I had this friend, and one day we were at the beach, school holidays, and he said, "Man, did you hear about jiu-jitsu? That stuff's becoming super popular. Maybe we should start." We were super skinny, right? Still nowadays it didn't change. But he said, maybe we should start lifting weights and let's get into jiu-jitsu. Right. So we bought these singlets of a brand in Brazil. It's called Hunter. So Hunter used to sell these jiu-jitsu t-shirts. The first thing that we did was to buy the t-shirts. Right. And then a week later, we decided to register at the gym. And I remember that back then, as a kid, right, you try different sports, and then you last 2 months in karate, 3 months doing something else. And then I really enjoyed the first jiu-jitsu class. I came to my daddy. I said, "Daddy, I just need like 100 reais, equivalent to $30 now, to buy the uniform." Yeah. And Daddy says, "Man, you've been doing all these different sports and you always give up. So I'm not going to buy this uniform." And I say, "Daddy, if you buy this one, I'm really going to stick with it." And that was 1999.
Yeah. You were lying. Wow. Okay. So then you loved jiu-jitsu straight away. You were hooked straight away. But how quickly did you start thinking about things like the next belt, the blue belt, and like getting to black belt as well?
I think it took a while for me to start thinking about the next belt. The challenge back then was, I think, 2 of them, but mainly was to survive on the mats. There wasn't a division based on age or weight or experience. We all trained together, which means as a 15 years old, I was training people like in their 30s or so who were more experienced and stronger. And I think the structure that we had back then, despite of the fact that my professor really did an amazing job, we didn't have like a curriculum, the safety standards were different. So I was trying to survive on the mats as opposed to thinking about the next belt. I think that took a while. Even like getting the blue belt, I think it's something that just happened, as opposed to me, okay, I really want that blue belt.
You stuck it out, so you got there eventually.
Yes.
Do you think that kind of challenge, because you hear people complain about that from other jiu-jitsu schools too, that like you turn up, they show a random technique, and then you start sparring, and because there's no curriculum, it's like you're neck deep in all of jiu-jitsu from the beginning, and it's hard work. Do you think that's a good challenge for white belts, or that's not the best way to learn jiu-jitsu?
Look, I really loved the challenge, and it was exciting. For like the first day you go to the gym already, do sparring with people, and so that was good. I don't regret the experience. But in terms of like trying to fast track your learning experience and being safe, I think it doesn't work well. I think you having like a proper system in place help people developing much faster. And I see that from the guys at the gym, these people who started a year and 2 months ago, they're much better now than I was when I had one year of jiu-jitsu. They're much more technical. They know how to deal with different situations. Whereas maybe I was just like trying to do one sweep in 1 year of jiu-jitsu.
So 1 year is how long it took you to get to blue, roughly?
Yeah, it was a bit more. Yeah, maybe roughly a year and a half. Yeah, roughly a year and a half. That's how long it took.
Okay. Cool. And how many belts were you with this particular gym for? All the way to black?
So I had two professors at the first gym, and then halfway through blue belt they split.
Okay.
So I stuck with the same professor until brown belt.
Okay.
Yeah. Until brown belt. That was I'm really bad with the dates, but I think I stuck until brown belt, and then from brown belt to black belt I trained under Professor Mario Hayes, who is the coach of a lot of like famous athletes nowadays.
Cool. Okay. So you mostly stay with like the same kind of guys. That's interesting because I know some people they get to go through all different gyms. Do you feel like now that you have your own gym, the lessons you learned from being a white belt, or is it lessons you've learned from later on are now informing what you want to teach white belts, how you approach coaching white belts?
Yes, I think definitely right, because you get your experience back then, and then you try to get the good things that you had. You try to get the more like bad things that you had there, and then say, okay, I want to stick with the good ones, and I want to correct the other ones that weren't as good. So I think definitely it helps a lot passing through all these different belts and go through all this way. It helps you building, okay, that's what I believe is going to be the best for our students to learn.
So you mentioned you had no regrets, but what do you think is the best way for a white belt to approach the gym? They've just walked in, or maybe they've already been training for 3 or 4 months, and they're starting to get to the point where they're like, okay, I want to start feeling progression now. Or do you think they don't worry about that, or how do you think they should orient themselves within the gym and the training?
Yes, I think people always worry about progression, right? They're putting the time there, they want to get something back out of it. Now, I think the best way to do it is to really try to understand how the techniques work, right? How you apply one technique, how you apply a different technique, as opposed to, let's say, trying to prove yourself on the mats, right? Because that's the most natural thing is, I'm going to do jiu-jitsu, and then you do the specific training. Now it's time to prove myself. I want to pass everyone's guard, right? And that might be good at the beginning for a couple of months because you're really using your strength there. You're getting stronger, so you might be able to sustain this for a little bit, right? But as the time passes, you get stuck. So I think really trying to apply the techniques as opposed to just like winning around, that would be the best secret that I know to develop jiu-jitsu.
Right. It's a hard thing to make yourself do too, right? Because you have to kind of give up. Maybe I'm giving up victory or success here just to learn, just to practice the technique.
Yes, it's like if in jiu-jitsu your ego gets naturally hurt already with this perspective of the suggestion that I made, now your ego is going to get even worse, right? Because maybe you know that I could win that round, but I decided not to win because I want to learn. So that's a tough decision to make. But still, I think that's a best suggestion in terms of developing.
Okay. Do you think, I know, not everyone, but for a lot of people who come to jiu-jitsu, big part of the change is the way they have to deal with their ego and like facing loss, facing like challenges, fear sometimes. Do you think that mostly only occurs around the white belt, and that's kind of like the defining feature of the white belt, or do you feel like that has stuck through the whole way through?
Look, my ego is being destroyed for the last 20 years. I think it's a constant. It's constant. It's going to happen on all levels. Of course, the more you train, the more, let's say, you're going to achieve those results, and we managed to win against that person, get that other person, but you're never going to be safe. You're only going to be safe if you're not training. Right?
Yeah.
If you're sitting there on the side and say, I'm not going to do the sparring, not going to do the specific training, then you're safe. But if you're on the mat, you're never safe.
Yeah.
And sometimes you might be a black belt, a white belt is going to tap you, a purple belt is going to tap you. So it's a constant feeling. I don't think it's only on the white belt, but that lasts forever. But that's what makes us a better person, right?
Yes.
On the long term, not on the short term.
Yeah, to keep coming back to it, keep facing it again, I guess.
Yeah.
Again and again and again.
Yeah.
All right, well, one last question to kind of wrap up. Well, actually, two questions, just quickly. Lots of people, I know I did when I was first training, I was kind of agonizing over, like, do I start competing at white belt? Do I compete at all? For some people, competition is clearly, like, the most important part to them about jiu-jitsu. Other people, it's not really something that they even think about until they get pushed into it, maybe. Do you think competition is important to even think much about as a white belt, or kind of just, if it happens, let it happen, or how do you think competition should be approached?
Look, my opinion is that everyone can benefit out of a competition, because then is when your skills actually get tested under psychological pressure. And that's a situation that you're going to pass through life in different circumstances, right? So if you can get tested on that, that's amazing. You can have a lot to win out of that. Now, if it's for everyone, I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe some people, they just don't want to put themselves under that amount of pressure because they go to the gym just to relax. And that I understand. But if people would benefit, I think everyone would benefit.
Okay. And then the last one, signing off, you got one little moment to give some white belts some motivation. What do you think is the most important lesson or the most important thing to, like, stay focused on? White belt, the golden nugget of white belt knowledge.
I think the main thing for the white belts is, of course, to be patient, right? Because jiu-jitsu is a whole universe, and it's going to take a long time for you to cover that whole universe. So you need to be patient to put all those bits together. So just be patient with yourself and take good care of your body as well, in the sense of when your body is complaining about it, you need to be smart. And that's what I say to a lot of people, jiu-jitsu is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's going to last for a long time, and that's when you're going to see the benefits of it. So be patient to put all these bits together inside that whole universe that is jiu-jitsu.
Wicked. All right, thank you. Well, I think that's it for our discussion on the white belt and white belts and being a white belt. Thank you very much for sitting down, and we'll be back soon with more jiu-jitsu conversations.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Nick.
No worries. Us.
Us.